Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome in to Best on the Board here at The Athletic. Michael Beller and Andrew DeWitt here with you as we take a look ahead to Week 6. Week 5 not over. Of course, we still got Ravens and Colts later tonight, but we're going to take a look ahead to the Week 6 early lines as we do every single Monday. DeWitt, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing awesome.
Yeah, doing awesome. Feeling good?
That late night game had me up a little bit late last night.
Yeah, I think that that certainly hit all of us east of the Mississippi a little bit harder this morning with that late finish to, Bills. Damn, Buffalo Bills getting it going and what was capping off what was a really fun Sunday. I think, in my estimation, the most fun Sunday of the season that we've had to date. Let's take a look back at how we did a week ago. DeWitt, 1-1 for both of us. You were on the Cowboys Giants over. That was at 51.5 when we talked 1 week ago. Ended up going a little bit higher than that and still went over, even with all the injuries the Giants suffered. Panthers, however, bit you had them -3.5 against the Eagles. That one did not come through. I also won on the Cowboys. I had them line there. That was a 7-point favorite that the Cowboys were. They took care of business pretty comfortably. I was buying an Arizona San Francisco over. That one, however, was never really even in play. Pretty much halfway through the first quarter, that over was dead. So 1-1 for both of us last week. You were sitting at a very nice looking 6-2 on the season. I am at 4-4. Now we're ready to talk Week 6 now that we've set that stage. So this is the first week with buys. We got 4 teams going on buys, so there's 14 games to choose from on this week's slate. Get us going with your first pick here. What do you got for us here?
I'm going to take the Texans +10 at the Colts. This line opened at 10.5. I grabbed it last night at 10.5. This morning I noticed it's gone down to 10. I'm not really surprised by that. Couple of different factors I'm looking at in this game. One, the Colts play tonight. We don't know what's going to happen in that game.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get less injuries by playing a football game. I can tell you that much. So that's another thing. The Texans had a really good game yesterday against the Patriots. And I'll say this, when I look at that team, those players are really starting to believe in David Culley as their coach. And for all the things that were going around that team in the preseason, all of the Deshaun Watson issues, the injury to Tyrod Taylor, like everything that's been going on with this team, like they're showing up to play every single week. We saw that yesterday against the Patriots. The Patriots came back and scored 10 points in the fourth quarter to win that game yesterday. But the Texans easily covered. They had the cover, they were ahead of that spread the whole game yesterday. And if you were on the Texans last week or yesterday, you really didn't sweat that game too much.
No.
And Davis Mills, third start, 21 for 29, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I noticed like they're being aggressive on fourth down. They went 3 for 3 against the Patriots yesterday. So they're playing to win. I think the players are responding to the coaching staff for whatever drama is going around that team. And, the Colts, they're still banged up on the offensive line, and that's a big red flag to me. And I just see the Texans as a 10-point favorite is a big number to me. I think this should be closer to, 9, 8.5, somewhere in that range. And that's why I'm taking the Texans right now against the Colts at that number.
Would be Texans or nothing for me. Colts really haven't done anything this season to suggest that they should be laying 10 against anyone, really, no matter where the game is being played either. We'll see how they do against the Ravens tonight. Of course, maybe we change our tune if they end up looking good against, a very good opponent in Baltimore, a team that's certainly going to challenge what they do defensively. And yeah, Houston, this is something that I've leaned on a little bit. I remember going back to the summer talking to Aaron Reese, who covers the Texans for us here at The Athletic, and he was obviously not exactly picking them to go to the playoffs or anything like that, but he made a point to me that has stuck with me, saying that he felt they weren't going to be as bad as everyone was projecting them to be because of all the veterans that are on that team. It really is a team, especially on the offensive side, that is just stacked with veterans really at every position. And so from a NFL institutional knowledge, from an understanding how to take care of their bodies, from those sorts of standpoints, he thought that they could be better than people expected, and better meaning that, they win 4 or 5 games rather than 2 or 3, like a lot of people were thinking was going to be the case for them to start the year. That's going to be our first pick in Week 6 on the record here on Best on the Board. Texans +10 against the Colts. I am also going to a road dog for my first pick. In fact, I believe all 4 of our picks, we are backing road teams. I like the Chargers at the Ravens. Again, the team that is on the other side of this Monday night game here tonight, the Baltimore Ravens. So we'll see how things shake out for them. But 3.5 for the Chargers, catching 3.5 on the road. I think it's a fair line. Certainly, I don't think that this is that I'm suddenly getting this amazing value on the Chargers. I think it makes sense where this number is set. But I really like this Chargers team. I think we all really like this Chargers team. Opening some eyes, and you just look up and down what they've done this season, the games that they've won, the style by which they've won some of these games, the teams they have defeated, beating Cleveland, a very good team yesterday, beating Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. We know that team's got some defensive issues, but that is still a very good Kansas City team that they took down. Their only loss coming to a Dallas team that looks like it is really going to be in the mix for, certainly the NFC East and maybe as a Super Bowl contender as well. Like, the Chargers have played a tough schedule to this point of the season, and they have played it very, very well, going 4-1. So 3.5, it's really about the hook here for me. I just feel like if this were 3, maybe I'm staying away, but I have plenty of confidence 6 days out from this game, especially with the Ravens playing on a short week, that the Chargers can keep this as a field goal game. And I maybe even like them outright to win it. I just think that we need to be taking the Chargers seriously as DeWitt, maybe one of the 5 best teams in the NFL. I think that's probably pretty comfortable for them. You throw Buffalo in there, you throw Tampa in there. Maybe you still want to keep Kansas City in there. Obviously the exact makeup of your top 5 is going to be different when you talk to people, but I think the Chargers definitely deserve to be part of that group. And so I think getting 3.5 points against a quality opponent in Baltimore on the road feels like fair value to me. I'm going to go ahead and back the Chargers here. Any early lean for you on this one?
The Chargers are a team in my pool I'll definitely be taking, because I think a lot of people will lean towards the Ravens. They're like, oh, Ravens at home, I'll pick that. But I think there's going to be good game theory play on the Chargers this week in your NFL pools. And then at the same time, like the Chiefs were able to score against the Ravens. So, and I'm kind of looking at the Chargers offense with Justin Herbert kind of the same way. So I kind of see this as like a back and forth game. And I kind of see the Chargers being able to outscore the Ravens in this one.
The Ravens have had some defensive issues. You mentioned the Chiefs game that they actually ended up winning, but they gave up 35 points. The Raiders really got up and down the field against the Ravens as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do against a much slower paced and deliberate offense in Indianapolis tonight. But that's not going to be what the Chargers are bringing to bear against them next week. So Chargers plus 3.5. That is my first early play for week 6. For now, we bump DeWitt out. DeWitt, don't go too far. We'll have you back in a second. And we bring on Jason Scott from BetMGM, lead trader at BetMGM. Jason, thanks for joining us on Best on the Board. How you doing today?
Thanks for having me, Michael. Well, a little battered around yesterday. The betters beat us, but we'll fight back.
Yeah, I've got a feeling you guys will do okay in the long run for sure. Let's talk about some of these games that Andrew and I were just talking about. Let's start with that Texans and Colts game. As he said, it was at 10.5 when it opened up. It's bumped down 0.5 point at your shop to 10. How do you guys come to that line that you opened it at 10.5?
Yeah, look, you've picked the 2 hardest games, right? Traditionally, the 2 hardest games are the teams that will go up on a Sunday, the teams that play on a Monday night. A little bit different this week with some of the injuries to some of the key players, and in the Giants' case, the whole team. So there's a little bit of guesswork. When we went up 10.5, as you guys mentioned, they were very keen to take the hook. Wasn't a great deal of money for it, but it was smart people. Smart players. A lot will depend on what happens tonight. Certainly injuries and performance in the Ravens Colts here, but we've been guided by those that are sharp wanting to be. We've barely written the name of the Colts.
Yeah, that not a surprise. I can't see too many people wanting to lay that 10 or 10.5 before even seeing what they do tonight against the Ravens. And as Andrew was pointing out, Houston really, they were a very competitive team and probably feel like they should have won that game against the Patriots yesterday. So feeling comfortable with them getting that many points against the Colts. The game that I brought up, Chargers and Ravens, same question for you here. How are you handling a team like the Chargers right now, sitting at 4-1, really impressive wins, as we've mentioned? How are they getting treated in the market and really by you guys right now?
Look, the Chargers are without doubt one of the punters' favorites this year. I think Justin Herbert seems to have a big following. The 2 LA teams, Chargers and Rams, go around a loser for us every time. We wanted Baker and the Browns just so you get over the Chargers. Again, it's another one. I mean, no team in the NFL is more dependent on one player than the Ravens. So if something's to happen to Lamar tonight, the Chargers could start favorite.
Yeah, what do you look for in this game tonight? Anything other than obviously something seismic like a Lamar injury would obviously change things significantly. But is there anything else in Ravens and Colts that could have you tweaking this without seeing where the action goes?
Yeah, look, I mean, if the Colts were to win, it certainly would change. But one thing we've known over many years of data, the NFL, you can't react too much on the last week. Players move, players change, mental positions change. It's not a game where we're seeing consistency week in, week out. Who would have thought that the Lions could have nearly beaten the Vikings yesterday?
Want to ask you about one more game that we've got coming up in Week 6. It's Bills and Titans. Bills are, at last check, 4.5-point favorites in Tennessee, coming off that huge win and a game that, frankly, they were in control of start to finish. Gun to gun, they were totally in control of this game against the Chiefs in Week 5. Now they go to Tennessee in Week 6, 4.5-point favorites. How did you ultimately land on that number?
Well, look, you start and you realize the Bills have to be favorite. Now, what we're trying to work out is were they up for last night's game against the Chiefs, and will there be some sort of come down factor? The Titans are always a consistent team. You know what you're going to get. AJ Brown obviously back and giving them a target down the field helped yesterday. I don't know. I think Julio's half a chance to play next week. The Bills seem to get out reasonably unscathed with injuries last night. Sort of 4.5's that in the middle line, isn't it? We're well away from the key numbers 3 and 7, and we'll see which way it goes. The punters want to tell us. So I think, to be honest, we almost took the coward's way out here, starting at 4.5.
It's always one of those that jumps out at you anytime you see that 4.5. Any early action? Any interesting before we let you go? Anything early on in these first 14-ish hours since we've seen those first Sunday games? Anything that has caught your eye?
The two best back teams with us, Pittsburgh with Big Ben, obviously with Russell being out for Seattle, and there's a lot of people every week. The team playing the Jags, but I think that their last one was Week 1 last year. The Dolphins have been 3 to 3.5, and in terms of dollars spent, it's been our biggest.
Yeah, it's something to keep our eye on. Certainly that game between Seattle and Pittsburgh. Not exactly what the schedulers were expecting for Sunday Night Football when they set that one months and months ago, but just one of the many games that we'll be keeping our eye on all week. That's Jason Scott from BetMGM. Jason, thanks again for being with us on Best on the Board.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
All right, and speaking of BetMGM, obviously they are our premier gambling partner here at The Athletic. You can get in the door with them. Bet 10 to win $200. That's right. Bet 10, win $200, plus get a free 3-month subscription to The Athletic. And for existing subscribers, you're in that as well. We'll just tack 3 months onto your subscription at The Athletic. Go to betmgm.com/TABest. Use the promo code TABest, and you will get that offer. Again, it's bet 10 to win $200. Plus a free 3 months to The Athletic. BetMGM.com/TABest with the promo code TABest. It is a new customer offer for BetMGM customers. Terms and conditions apply. All right, DeWitt, a couple of more picks from each of us here. We're going to start with you. Just talked about it with Jason. He said they maybe took a little bit of a coward's way out, sitting Bills at 4.5-point favorites in Tennessee against the Titans. Where are you at on this one?
I'm taking the Bills because they look like the Chargers. They look like one of the best teams in football.
Maybe the best team.
I mean, that game last night was impressive. I think the Chiefs have huge issues. They look like the team. They may be the scariest number 7 seed in NFL history. I mean, we've only had 2 years.
We've only had two. We've only had two number 7 seeds in NFL history.
We'll circle back to that one later.
They're definitely. I agree. The Chiefs are scarier than the 2020 Chicago Bears. I agree with you on that for sure.
There you go. All right. So here's where I'm taking. Here's my thoughts on the Titans, and then we'll circle back to the Bills. The Titans defense is not good, right?
No. Yes.
This team is not built to come from behind, correct? This team is a get the lead, pound the ball, run the ball. If Ryan Tannehill has to make a throw, he can definitely do it. I'm not saying Ryan Tannehill is not a great quarterback. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. I just don't think this is a bad matchup for the Titans just because of how they're built. Because I understand, Josh Allen and the Bills' offense is going to score against this defense, no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. And we saw that yesterday. Trevor Lawrence, I watched part of that game yesterday. He looked really good in parts of that game yesterday. By far, Trevor Lawrence's best game is how he looked, and he looked comfortable. He didn't look like he was getting rushed out of the pocket. He just looked like he knew what he was doing against this Titans defense. So I just think, and then last week, Michael said, hey, we don't want to go looking at previous results too much in the NFL, but they lost to the Jets. We'll just point that out. And then, another thing is home field. Some people will be like, oh, the Titans are at home. It's a Bills back-to-back travel week, all this weird stuff. They got back late, early in the morning on Monday, probably the day off today. I mean, I'm not worried about that at all. It's a Monday night game. They have plenty of time to travel. They'll get into Nashville. Hopefully they stay out of trouble. But honestly, I don't think home field matters that much in the NFL right now, even with the fans. So, I just think – and then you look at the Tennessee's wins. They have wins against the Jaguars, Colts, and Seahawks. I'll give you credit. The Seahawks win is great. But the Jaguars and Colts are definitely one of the bottom 10 teams in the league. So that's kind of where I'm going. I think this line should be closer to 6.5, 7. Like Michael said, they didn't know where to set this line because they were concerned about the Titans or Jason. But they just don't know where to go about this one. So that's where my thoughts are. The Bills are just one of the best teams, and I'm going to take them on the road. Just like last night, they were 3-point favorites or 3-point underdogs last night. I have no problem taking the Bills on the road.
Look, I'll say this. If, the point of us getting together on these Mondays and talking about early lines is because we want to get in before before the sides that we like are a few points, more in their favor, right? And you want to get in on the Bills before this becomes 5.5 or 6.5. And that's the only way this line is going, right? There's no way that you're buying this at 4.5 and 5 days from now, you're going to be like, oh man, if I waited, look, it's 3.5 now. Like there is almost no way that happens. So it definitely is as of Monday, right? This has to be Bills or nothing. It just has to be Bills or nothing right now. And I agree with you. Like, this is one of those games that just has the feeling of how is Tennessee possibly going to keep up? How is it? Because they're not going to, it would take a confluence of unlikely events for them to keep the Bills south of, give them a little bit of credit and say even like 27 points. Right. And they could do it. Right. They totally control the game with Derrick Henry. They make it a game of, as few possessions as possible. Derrick Henry has a great game. They're holding the ball for 7, 8, 9 minutes on their scoring possessions. Like, that's the formula for the Titans. And they could do that. It just feels incredibly unlikely. And even that coming to, being the eventuality doesn't foreclose on the Bills just doing their thing offensively as well. And so it adds up, such a way that it's hard to believe that the Titans can keep this, within the 4.5, within the number. It definitely would take a lot of things going their way, and it could happen, but definitely not something you want to bet on, at least not at 4.5. This definitely has the feeling of something that if you like the Titans, let it roll for a couple of days, because you're probably going to get 5.5 or 6.5, or maybe even a full touchdown by the time we're really talking about this game kicking off on Sunday. I've got one more pick for us here, and it is a team that I've been riding all season. I am not going to stop this week. Dallas Cowboys, 5-0 against the spread on the season, 4-1 in the actual record. That one loss we all remember way back in week 1 against the against the Tom Brady, man, he keeps screwing with my mind. I still think Patriots against the Buccaneers in week 1, a game that they were that close to winning as well. I love this Cowboys team. You and I were sitting here a week ago, and I said that I really like them on the -7, and that even though the Giants aren't an impressive team to take down, that ultimately people are going to have to be saying that this Cowboys team is a Super Bowl contender. And I mean, they just handled the Giants with total ease in that game. And this is just, this offense ain't going to stop. This Dallas offense can do it in so many ways. We saw the big game from CeeDee Lamb yesterday, and Amari Cooper had a touchdown, but didn't do a ton. Dalton Schultz still getting significantly involved. Big games out of both Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. This offense can go. And the Patriots defense, sure, it's fine, but it is nowhere near at the level that the Cowboys offense is. By far the best unit in this game is Dallas's offense. I don't really care where it is. As you said, home field has been overrated in the NFL for a few years now, and that's been true this season. I know coming into week 5 that underdogs had road teams, more wins, right, than home teams this season, period. And I haven't taken a look at the updated numbers after week 5, but that just goes to show you that home field is a little bit overrated. Bottom line, Cowboys comfortably, without question, the better team in this game. I love them cruising past that 3.5. Any lean for you here?
I don't really have a lean here specifically. I agree with you that the Cowboys are one of the better teams. I think, New England definitely had a little bit of that Tom Brady, rematch hangover against the Texans this week. So I'm kind of, they might be refocused a little bit more this week. And Bill Belichick can deny all he wants that he didn't care about that game, but he cared a lot about that game.
Give me a break, Bill.
Yeah, let's be honest. He prepared more for that game than he ever has. So, I just see the Patriots, they're 1-4. They're not a very good football team. And yeah, I think BetMGM probably put the hook in there just to avoid people betting the Cowboys at that key 3 number right away. And I think this one gets bet up too. So if you like the Patriots at home to bounce back, like you said, on some other games, don't bet the Patriots right now on this one. I think this one will probably creep up to 4.5. But we're starting to see less line movement right now in the NFL. We know more about these teams. We're going into week 6. So, there's a lot less line movement going on right now than there were early in the season, specifically early in the week when we were talking about these games. But that being said, we still see a lot of movement on Sunday to Monday morning because, 3 or 4 games that we were talking about last night moved already. So.
Yeah, the Patriots' one win that you referenced came against the Jets. Their first win of the season. Then, of course, yesterday they beat the Texans. Those are the only 2 games in which they've scored more than 20 points. That game against the Texans yesterday was one where they needed that just bizarre blocked punt to get beyond the 20 points. Like, this is just not an offense. So you really have to think that they're going to be able to keep Dallas in the 20-ish point range if they are somehow going to stay within 3.5. And I just don't see it. I really don't see that being the case now with the way that this Dallas offense is rolling this season. Love the Cowboys laying 3.5 in New England this week. That's going to do it for this episode of Best on the Board. Thank you for joining us here as always. And big thanks to Jason Scott from BetMGM for joining us and talking about that process for setting these lines over the last 12, 14, 16 hours since we've been getting Week 5 results. For Andrew DeWitt, I am Michael Beller. Best on the Board back with you on Thursday. Me, Dan Santaramita, and Ari Wasserman taking a look at the Week 7 college football lines. If you've got anything going in Colts and Ravens, whether it's betting, whether it's fantasy, whatever it might be, whatever you need, we hope that you get it. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon.